Okay, so have you ever heard of a kid who could outrun a train, untie any knot you put in front of him, or, and get this, hit a home run off a frog? Well, today we're diving into the story of a modern American legend, a boy they called Maniac Magee. And really, it's all about his search for the one thing he never, ever had, a home. You know, before anyone knew the real boy, there was just the myth. In this town, Two Mills, these whispers about Maniac Magee were everywhere. They'd say he kept a giant cockroach on a leash, or that he was literally born in a garbage dump. He was this larger-than-life figure, a walking tall tale, a legend before anyone even knew his real name.
But here's the thing about legends. They almost always start with a real person. And this one started with a boy named Jeffrey Lionel Magee. His story, though, doesn't begin with some amazing feat. It begins with a really deep tragedy. See, when he was only 3 years old, his parents were killed in this horrific trolley crash. And just like that, in an instant, Jeffrey was an orphan.
So he was sent to live with his Aunt Dot and Uncle Dan. And to say they didn't get along is an understatement. They hated each other so much they just didn't speak, ever. Their house was this silent war zone. They had two of everything, just so they wouldn't have to interact. 2 TVs, 2 cars, 2 refrigerators. Jeffrey lived in this awful, suffocating silence for 8 long years. Until one night at a school concert, he just snapped. He stood up on his chair and screamed at them, "Talk! Talk, will ya?" And with that one scream, Jeffrey just ran. He ran right off that stage, out the door, and he never looked back. After a whole year that nobody knows anything about, they call it the lost year. He ends up 200 miles away in a town called Two Mills, Pennsylvania. Now, Two Mills is a town split right down the middle by hate. You had the white West End on one side of Hector Street and the black East End on the other, an invisible but very real line. And this right here is where the legend of Maniac really takes off. His very first day in town, he snags a varsity football pass with one hand while holding a book in the other. Then he rescues a terrified kid from Finsterwald's backyard, a place no one dared to go. People see him just casually running on top of the steel rail of the train tracks. And then, the grand finale, he steps up to bat against the town's biggest, baddest pitcher, John McNabb, and hits a home run off of a frog the guy pitched. Seriously, the town didn't know his name, so they just gave him one, Maniac. But see, Maniac didn't see lines the way other people did. Chased by McNabb and his buddies, he runs right across Hector Street, deep into the black East End, which was something no white kid ever did. And there, he comes face to face with the toughest kid on that side of town, Mars Bar Thompson. And in this moment of just pure, innocent defiance, Maniac takes a bite from Mars Bar's candy bar, an act so unbelievable it just leaves everyone completely speechless. Well, that crazy confrontation ends up leading him to Amanda Beale, the girl whose book he'd borrowed earlier that day. Amanda, she sees the good in him. She actually defends him from Mars Bar, and then she does something truly incredible. She invites him to come home with her. And for the very first time in his life, Jeffrey Magee finds out what a real home is supposed to feel like. And he just fits. He plays with Amanda's little brother and sister. He unties these impossible knots in their sneakers that no one else can fix. He reads them stories, does the dishes without anyone asking. He even discovers he's allergic to pizza, something he'd never even had a chance to eat before. For the first time since he was 3 years old, Maniac Magee has an address. A real one. 728 Sycamore Street. But the town's hatred just wouldn't leave him be. Because Maniac was white and the Beales were black, his being there was a problem for some people. One morning, he wakes up to find that hateful, racist message scrawled in chalk on their house. And in that moment, Maniac realizes his search for a home is causing pain to the only real family he's ever known. He knew right then he had to leave. Amanda has one last desperate idea. She thinks if Maniac can become a hero to the whole town, black and white, then maybe, just maybe, they'll finally accept him. So what's her plan? Have him untie Cobble's knot. This thing is legendary, a massive, tangled ball of string that has stumped everyone for years. The official prize is free pizza for a year, but what Amanda is really hoping for is acceptance. And believe it or not, he does it. With the whole town watching, Maniac patiently, carefully untangles the entire knot. The crowd just erupts. They're showering him with confetti. But then, that celebration turns to ash. Amanda realizes the confetti is made from the torn-up pages of her most precious book.
And for Maniac, that's it. That's the final sign. He walks straight down the middle of Hector Street and right out of town.
So now he's at his absolute lowest point, living in the buffalo pen at the local zoo. And that's where he's found by an old park groundskeeper named Earl Grayson. Grayson's this former minor league pitcher who never quite made it to the big leagues, and he takes Maniac in, not to a house, but to the baseball equipment room at the park's band shell.
Their friendship was this simple, beautiful thing. Maniac taught the old man how to read, starting from scratch. They shared stories, they shared meals, and they created this little home for themselves they called 101 Bandshell Boulevard. They celebrated the first real Thanksgiving and Christmas either of them had ever really known. Grayson gave Maniac his prized baseball glove, and Maniac gave Grayson a book he wrote himself. But just 5 days after Christmas, Maniac woke up and found that Grayson had passed away in his sleep. And just like that, he was alone again. Grieving and just drifting, Maniac is eventually found by two other runaways, Russell and Piper McNabb. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because they're the younger brothers of John McNabb, that bully pitcher from the beginning. Maniac sees a bit of his own lost childhood in them, and he agrees to go with them back to the West End, really just to try and keep them safe. And if the Beale house was all love and order, well, the McNabb house was the exact opposite. It was a fortress of filth, total chaos, and just raw, ugly prejudice. Their father was literally building a concrete bunker, a pillbox, in the living room to fight off what he imagined was an oncoming invasion from the East End. Maniac stayed for one reason and one reason only: to protect those two little boys who were trapped in that poison. To keep the boys from running away again, Maniac agrees to do all these crazy dares for them. The biggest dare of all, to go back into the East End. And of course, he runs into Mars Bar Thompson again. The two of them end up in this impromptu race, and Maniac wins by running the last stretch completely backwards. It's an amazing thing to see, but it totally humiliates Mars Bar in front of his entire neighborhood. This all leads up to this moment of absolute crisis. One of the McNabb boys, Russell, gets stuck way up high on the P&W trolley trestle, and he's terrified. The crowd all turns, and they're looking at Maniac, expecting the legend to step up and save him. But he just freezes. He's completely paralyzed. He turns around and walks away, leaving that little boy stranded up there. So why? Why did he freeze? It's because the sight of that trestle unlocked a trauma that had been buried his whole life. This was the exact same place where when he was 3 years old, his parents' trolley crashed into the river below. A memory he had repressed for nearly a decade came rushing back, and in that one critical moment, it left him utterly helpless. But someone does save the boy. And in his stunning, incredible twist, it's Mars Bar Thompson, Maniac's rival, the tough kid from the other side of town. He's the one who climbs that trestle. He rescues the terrified white child and takes him home to his own family, who clean him up and take care of him. Mars Bar finds Maniac later, back at the buffalo pen, and tells him what happened. He even brings an invitation from his mom for Maniac to come visit. But Maniac refuses. He's convinced he's just bad luck for everyone. But Mars Bar doesn't give up. He goes and gets Amanda Beale. And she finds Maniac, and she doesn't ask him. She tells him. She says, "You're coming home." And as he follows her out of the zoo, letting her do all the talking, Maniac finally gets it. A home isn't just a building with a street address. It's the people who refuse to let you go. His whole journey, from orphan to legend and back to just being a boy, it shows us that family isn't about skin color or what side of the street you live on. It's about acceptance. And it kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? How many maniacs are out there right now just running, looking for a door to be opened, for a place to finally call home?